Regarding insurance coverage, could you please explain to me what standard liability insurance is?
Well, from an automobile standpoint, standard liability insurance is the amount of insurance that you take out to protect yourself if you are the cause of an accident and the other person is injured. So in Ohio, the minimum liability insurance is $12,500 for one person if they're injured, and if there's more than one person that's injured by your vehicle and by your fault, then the max is $25,000. So your own liability policy will have those types of limits. Now, there's also a section in your own policy where you're asked if you want uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. And you can opt out of that by checking a box. I don't ever suggest doing that. I think everybody needs uninsured and uninsured motorist coverage. In fact, most people need much more of that than they do the liability coverage, because what happens, and the reason that you would use your uninsured motorist or underinsured motorist coverage, is if you're in an accident, it's the other person's fault, and you are significantly injured, or the people in your vehicle are significantly injured. If the person that ran into you only has a 12-5-25 policy, and you have significant injuries in your vehicle, then let's say your damages are $100,000. The other person's policy is only going to pay $25,000 of it. So there's a gap there between what your injuries and what your case is worth versus what the other person is insured. Your own insurance can pick up that gap. So you would ask for uninsured, underinsured limits of $100,000 rather than 12-5-25. This is very critical in motorcycle situations, because in a motorcycle accident, if you are injured and it's the fault of the other person, unfortunately, most motorcycle accidents are catastrophic injuries. You could have hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills alone. And if the person that hit you or pulled out in front of you or whatever caused you to lose control of your vehicle only has a 12-5-25 policy, then how are all those medical bills going to get paid? I mean, you can sue the person, but if they don't have anything, then all you're looking at is receiving the maximum of $12,500 or $25,000 in their insurance coverage. Where if you have, let's say, $1 million blanket liability policy that includes uninsured motorist and uninsured motorist coverage, then your policy would kick in and it would pay to you the difference between whatever the tortfeasor or the person that hits you's policy is and your $1 million umbrella policy. And what's really interesting is if you check with your insurance agents, $1 million umbrella policy is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $200, $300, maybe $400 a year. So the cost of it is, very minimal compared to the type of protection that it provides you. And like I said, in motorcycle cases, it's almost essential that you have an umbrella policy.
So if I understand you correctly, the umbrella policy will insure me for my medical and for my property damage?
No. Your umbrella policy would cover you for your personal injury, which would include your medical bills, your pain and suffering, your lost wages, whatever you have suffered in the way of damages to yourself, to your body, to your finances. But your coverage with regard to the property damage is contained in a different section of your policy that only pertains to property damage. So again, if the person that hits you has $5,000 of property damage and your vehicle's worth $15,000, then you're only going to get $5,000 from that person's policy. whereby if you yourself have $25,000 worth of property damage coverage, then you can submit your claim against your own company for the additional amount of money for property damage. I suggest that everybody contact an attorney. Not that insurance adjusters don't treat people fairly or they try to trick people. It's a complicated process. And if you don't understand it, even an insurance adjuster that's trying to be as forthright as they possibly can ultimately take advantage of you by you not understanding what they're actually saying. So, you know, my recommendation is that if you have an insurance adjuster that's contacting you, that you retain an attorney and advise the insurance adjuster to only have conversations with your counsel. Well, I mean, as long as they're going to be paid and there aren't conditions placed on it, because you don't want to sign away any personal injury claim that you might have in exchange for them paying your medical bills. So if they, and it's very seldom that you'll find an insurance company that's going to pay your medical bills as you incur them, because they're going to wait until you're done treating before they want to pay anything. So and this is something else that we hadn't talked about, but in most insurance policies, there's a med pay provision in your own policy. And, you know, I've seen them where it's been $1,000 med pay. I've seen them where it's been $50,000 med pay. And what that does is, in case, again, the tortfeasor or the person that has injured you doesn't have enough coverage to pay for your medical expenses, you can submit your medical expenses through your own automobile carrier, and they will pay for the medical expenses.
Do I need an attorney to do that, or can I do that on my own?
Well, I mean, I think that if you're in a situation where you need to submit medical bills either through the your healthcare provider or the insurance adjuster or your own policy, that it's a complicated issue, and that really you need to have, you don't have to have an attorney, but an attorney that's well versed in insurance law